Hi, Dr. Hunsaker, and happy finals. Today I'm going to be talking about, for my three topics, ethics, expats, and modes of market entry. To begin with ethics, to start, I would say, for a definition, would be utilitarian ethics is the one I'll choose here, which is really just like doing ethics by the numbers, taking measurements, quantitative measurements, any way possible in order to decide what is and is not ethical, which is very interesting and I think is a very basic way of thinking about ethics. I think a lot of people start at this point kind of naturally, especially, and maybe that's my own bias speaking because I'm not really, I don't really belong to a minority, and that mode of ethics tends to exclude minorities. It tends to turn them into victims per se. My favorite part about learning about ethics this semester had to be, or the most interesting parts were, I liked how you presented on how business ethics are criticized because they kind of can be bent, and using the different lenses of business ethics or the different theories of it, you can kind of turn anything into being ethical or unethical. I just thought that was interesting, and I think it's, now that I know that, I believe it's important to kind of have a personal moral compass or set of beliefs before you approach an ethical situation, in order to guide you throughout that. Because if you kind of just rely on these theories, you're not necessarily going to get answers, because they disagree on things, and any which one of them would be interesting. I also found it interesting when we were talking about the child workers, in that example that was given in class. I don't know if it was a real one or just kind of like a little bit of a made up one. I can't recall. But of a young girl working in a factory who had to stop working at that factory, and because of that was unable to feed herself, being the main moneymaker of the household, and had to resort to child prostitution, getting AIDS and dying. I thought that was interesting, especially as an American, because I feel like we get so reactive to ideas of things that would be absolutely unacceptable here in the United States, but a better alternative perhaps in other countries than what else is out for offer. If it's between working in a sweatshop or prostitution, there's a better answer there. That's also like an example where when in Rome, do as the Romans do is kind of actually justified, because I believe we talked about it in class, but that saying kind of gets thrown around a lot negatively, because it is kind of negative ultimately. A lot of people use it to justify doing unethical things, but in that example it was more ethical in order to keep the young girl working in the sweatshop. For expats, and I would say my definition for an expat would be someone who is being sent by a company from their country to a foreign country in order to work there, maybe lead or help monitor, some kind of foreign direct investment or a new market entry. The biggest impact with expats to me was rates of failure and cost, and causes of failure and cost. I thought, as if you're looking at it from a business perspective, being the business and having so little control over a lot of the main causes, which seem to come from just family and personal ability to adjust to the change. Yes, you can educate, yes, you can train, yes, you can socialize or house them with other expats who can help them to adjust. But ultimately, really, it's difficult to have control over whether or not an expat's going to be successful where they end up. And with the amount of money you're putting into it, it just seemed like a really big gamble. I don't know. But I'm also split because I think that I would want a lot of control in a foreign market. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go a little fast. finally, I would say my last topic would have been methods of market entry, specifically turnkey projects and licensing. I think that turnkey projects and licensing, for me as like a pretend leader, would be scary because I like having a lot of control over things, and especially if you're entering a market that's new and you're unsure of how you're going to do there. Turning over so much control would make me fearful for my company and the state of that venture. And a turnkey project definition would be some kind when you contract with another company to build you facilities and even staff a foreign direct investment for your company. Thank you very much and have a nice summer, or I'll see you on the 20th. We have another class together. Bye-bye now, Dr. Hunsaker.